Please turn your cell phones off, or at least silence them before the meeting begins. Councilman Taylor, would you mind leading us in an invocation?
Heavenly Father, we thank you for this beautiful day that you've given us. We thank you for the rains that you've sent and blessing us. And again, as we know, we're here in this farming county that we just ask that you will bless the crops. Again, thank you for allowing us to be in America and being able to assemble as we are tonight to take care of business for the town of Tarboro. I'm thankful for being in the lobby today and hearing two ladies discussing their faith. Again, what a wonderful thing to hear. Again, we continue to pray for our citizens and fellow Americans in parts of the country that are suffering from fires and droughts and hurricanes and those kind of things. Heavenly Father, we just pray that you will give them the strength to carry forward. Again, thank you for letting us be here tonight. Thank you for the citizens that are here tonight. Again, thank you for this council. Thank you for the staff. And thank you for the great little town of Tarboro. We ask it all in your name.
Amen. Please rise if you're able for the pledge.
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
The first item on the agenda this evening is the approval of agenda by council. There was discussion to move requests and petitions of citizens before the election for the Ward 5 spot.
I make that motion, Mr. Mayor.
Councilman Taylor's made a motion to put requests and petitions in front of the election. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Burnett is second. Councilman Taylor's motion. All those, is there further discussion?
I'd just like to say the reason for doing that is there are folks here tonight that certainly would wish to speak on behalf of any of the candidates that we're looking at for the Ward 5. I think this would be an opportunity for them to speak. Any of the other citizens. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it. Motion carries. Now that was just for the petition, or not petition, the amendment. Is that correct, Mr. Hammond?
I retook the motion, Mr. Mayor. For the amendment, was it for the agenda to be approved with that motion?
I'll take it as all in all. All right, that brings us to requests and petitions of citizens. Please be mindful of a 5-minute time limit per person. When addressing council, please first state your name and your address. At this time, it would be appropriate for anybody with requests or petitions to come up to the podium.
No request, no petition. Just want to make a little report to you. Judith Long, 1708 West Wilson Street, Tarboro. And of course, I'm with the Down East Senior Games group from Tarboro. Part of that group from Tarboro is who I report. We had a real good, successful session this year. And I wanted to give you some background and some results so you know what we did while we were there. We were told that this year they had just about enough to set a new record for the number of participants in the 5 counties. I remember we were talking about the 5 counties. And we were just short of that. We had 20 participants just for Tarboro, those of us from here. And I want to let you know how we did medal-wise, and so you can be proud of us. We had a total of 20 people now. 101 first, second, and third place records.
Wow.
We had 64 that were first places. I take your glasses off so I can see. 28 second places and 9 third places. So we did pretty good. We did our town proud. I hope. I hope. Some of the guys that were a part of the games are here this evening, not the whole crowd. We were real proud this year too because we were able to get 3 people who had just aged up enough to participate. The youngest age group is 50 to 54, and we got 3 guys who are still working and have other things to do who agreed to participate. So we're still plugging for some of those younger people to come in with us. Another thing that happened this year that I've been kind of following for the last 10 years. In 2016, after my husband died, we started a new award in his memory. And it's the Reginald Moss Spirit of the Games Award. We have had 10 people to receive that award because it's usually one person a year. I have been trying to make a list of all 10 people. I'm missing 2, but I have 8 of the people that I could identify. And of that 8, 5 of them were Tarboro people. And the award, shows someone who has had a lot of enthusiasm about the events, who has had a commitment to participate and continue to participate in it, who has had fun, who has gone out and tried to promote the program. And so 5 out of possibly 10, that ain't too bad. I think we've done good. This year we had co-winners. And one of the co-winners, of course, is one of our Tarboro folks, and that's Harry Ballard. Harry, would you stand and let us see? So that gives us 6 people out of possibly 10. We let somebody else win it once in a while. Not too often. Not too often. The other thing that I want to mention to you is that those of us who haven't had the idea of going to the state finals, who are planning to go to the state finals, are going to have to raise funds for our housing when we go to the Raleigh, Cary, Durham area for the state finals in the fall. And so one of the things that we're doing, the first fundraiser we're doing is a pancake breakfast at Highway 55, which will be this Saturday. Then late enough so you don't forget it. And we would love to have you come in and celebrate with us. I have tickets. If anybody wants to get their ticket tonight. The other thing that I want to mention is that this is the first year that I can remember in the 30 years that I've been involved with this, that we have had some of our council folks there with us. And this year, Tate was there for us, Oza was there for us, and CB. They came for the events that we had here in Tarboro. And we were focusing on not making it so difficult that they have to go out of town, but we were pleased to have the 3 of you come and spend part of that day with us when we did shuffleboard and bocce. Hope you'll come back the next time. And hope that all of you will do the same thing and will participate. Okay, thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Moss. I have one follow-up question for you. What time is your pancake breakfast Saturday?
7 to 9:30.
7 to
9:30.
At Highway 55.
Saturday morning at Highway 55. We look forward to seeing all of you.
Ms. Moss, I've got one other request. Could you get all the participants to stand up?
Stand up. Look, this year we don't have all of this plenty that we usually have. What they did, they changed it on us, and now we get a participation medal. But then we get stars, gold, silver, or bronze, on our lanyard here to indicate the events that you medaled in. So you have to come up close to us now and look at our stars. We're full of stars. Stand up, folks.
Thank you, Ms. Moss, and everybody that's participating. Is there anybody else that would care to make a public comment? All right. Hearing none, we'll move on to the election for Ward 5. The first item is the discussion and approval of procedure for appointment of councilperson for Ward 5. Mr. Hinton, this is up to council how we proceed.
Yes, sir, Mr. Mayor, the town charter and ordinances says the council shall fill all vacancies caused by death, resignation, or failure to act or otherwise in the town council, or other offices filled by appointment of the council. So there's no, other direction, so I assume it would be like a main motion requires a majority vote of members present, so I have to have everyone here before us.
So it's going to take 4 out of 7 votes to take the Ward 5 seat.
Correct.
It makes sense to me if we did a written open ballot and see if the candidate might get 4 votes that it would take. And if that doesn't,
Are we accepting any additional nominations? We can review that. What we have.
We did receive 3 applications, obviously closed today, if anybody else, council, accept any nominations we have to the council. But we have 3 that's included in your agenda. I think also we have to appropriate to speak.
So I have a question with the majority being 4. Is there any way that we could just go on with whatever the vote is, the highest number win? Is there anything against that one? Or that method of voting?
Typically, a motion requires a majority.
It was that
This is
majority
a motion to
vote?
appoint the vacancy.
Okay.
So majority of council in this case is 4, based on the numbers. So typically what's happened in the past, is you have multiple rounds until you get to a point where somebody gets 4 votes.
What's the motion?
so I reckon it's, as a council, we need to come up with that procedure for this right now. Does anybody have any suggestions?
What are you asking now?
We have to set the procedure for how we would proceed with the replacement of the Ward 5 spot.
I'm confused because I thought that was what you were saying, procedure.
So I think at some point, if somebody gets 4 votes on the first ballot, then the election will be over. If nobody gets 4 votes, then we vote until somebody gets 4 votes. And it could be a situation where you have, so it has 2 votes that go to a final runoff. Would be appropriate to do it. If you have a tie, then that would be a situation where council needs to determine how you're going to break it out for the budget. Should that process be figured out before we have the vote? I think it would be appropriate. We can talk about that now.
So if the vote is split with one person getting 3 and 2 others getting 2 apiece, what would the procedure be?
Chad and I talked about it. A recommendation would be that the entire council vote on those 2, with the 2 votes, and then that person go to the final vote.
So the council, you could revote, or you could try to figure out some tiebreaker between those 5 candidates.
Well, maybe the first couple of times I like to see a revote,
Sure.
and then before we do that.
It may not be necessary,
Yeah.
but obviously.
Let's do 2.
2 rounds of voting? Okay.
If you don't get a majority of the first round, then the 2 additional rounds will be the council change.
Okay.
Decide what somebody wants to change or not. Before we do that.
And then should we allow the candidates time to speak to council as to why they'd like to leave?
That's up to us, I'm not sure. I'm not sure that we necessarily have to, but we definitely.
The applications include all that. There's a paragraph in their applications for why they like the council members. We have those for everything else, so.
I'll say, just an announcement. From there.
Okay. All right, so would you like to put that in the form of a motion?
Yeah, what I said. Yes.
So council,
Legally, it's legally
say it again?
No, I mean, the council would have to approve that process.
Well, why
As
can't we
it stands
approve
right
that?
now, you guys ask for it.
I'd rather we approve that we do highest vote again. It'll just simplify the process. And November is around the corner. And
Council's made every other appointment in the last 14 years, not majority.
But I'd like this appointment, this time to be the majority of the vote between. That's fair to everybody.
I don't think that's proper with the Robert Rules of Order the council follows.
If it's okay
just
for
like a
us
main
to
motion.
decide on it, then it's improper.
I think, well,
You have a motion on the table, is that correct, Councilman Woodard?
yes, my motion was that we take an initial vote, and if we don't get the majority that's required, we need two additional votes before we do an elimination of the two minutes. If it's still two times.
Okay. So to restate that, we will have an initial round of voting, and if there's not an outright majority in the initial round of voting, we'll have two additional rounds of voting. If we still haven't settled by then, we will go to a runoff of the last two candidates.
If that time.
Yes.
If not time, we can automatically. That's just my suggestion. That's just my motion.
All right. Do I hear a second? Councilman Brown has seconded Councilman Woodard's motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Any opposed? One nay? Okay. Two nays? Motion passes. Okay, at this time, it would be appropriate for council to write your name on the ballot. This is not a closed ballot. With your choice for the candidate of Ward 5. We'll pass these down to our clerk, Ms. Lunsford, when you're done.
One name.
One.
I'll have a name on it. Probably. It's not the first time. Well, you know, Leo kept trying to snap it out of my hand.
I thought we were voting no.
You ready, Mayor?
Yes, ma'am.
Ward 1, Councilman Woodard, Ryan Jones. Ward 2, Councilman Taylor, Mayor Pitt. Ward 3, Councilman Burnett, Mayor Pitt. Ward 4, Councilman Brown, Mr. Lewis Ridgway. Councilmember Bynum, Ryan Jones. Councilmember Jordan, Ryan Jones. And Councilman Anderson, Lewis Ridgway. So that's 3 votes for Ryan Jones, 2 for Mayor Pitt, and 2 for Lewis Ridgway.
Okay, so at this time, it would be appropriate for a second round of voting.
Councilman Burnett, Mears Pitt, Councilmember Bynum, Ryan Jones, Councilman Anderson, Louis Ridgway, and Councilmember Jordan, Ryan Jones. So that's 3 for Ryan Jones, 2 for Louis Ridgway, and 2 for Mears Pitt.
All right, round three. On council. If there's any discussion, let's have that now.
It kind of feels like everybody's gonna stay in their convictions, which is a good thing. Flipping a flop. Probably do this all time.
We said we'll be able to do it we'll go 3 times and then come through. Take another.
Councilmember Bynum, Ryan Jones, Councilman Taylor, Mears Pitt, Councilman Woodard, Ryan Jones, Councilman Anderson, Louis Ridgway, Councilmember Jordan, Ryan Jones, Councilmember Burnett, Mears Pitt, and Councilman Brown, Louis Ridgway. So, 3 votes for Ryan Jones, 2 for Mears Pitt, and 2 for Louis Ridgway.
Mr. Mayor, I'd make a motion that we, narrow the vote between Mr. Ridgway and Mr. Pitt. Have the entire council vote. With there being a tie in that situation, I would say that the mayor would break the tie.
That situation, there's 7 votes, there shouldn't be.
Well, there shouldn't be, but somebody doesn't vote.
Abstention or abstaining will be held. Yes. Okay, so at this time, it would be appropriate for council to vote between, Mr. Louis Ridgway and Mr. Mears Pitt. The winner of that will go on.
Councilman Taylor made that as a motion, and it's a second.
Oh, I apologize. Thank you. Councilman Brown has made a second to Councilman Taylor's motion to have a runoff between Mr. Louis Ridgway and Mr. Mears Pitt. Is there further discussion?
Yes, I want to know what sense does this make, having a runoff between the 2 candidates that can't meet the bar of, so now we're gonna rig it up so to be a tie, so that it'll be forced. That's why it would have been wiser or whatever, to fairly do what's right by all the candidates. It's actually unfair to all the candidates, what we're putting them through now. And that's all I know. Because I don't know how we're to vote on someone that we didn't even vote for.
Right.
When was the last time this process was going? Does anybody have a record of that?
Outright.
Al Braxton was the last time.
Yeah.
How many candidates were there?
Just 2 candidates.
We haven't had 3 candidates for presidency
Right.
in a long time. We have for boards and commissions, and council has always eventually dropped the lowest vote getter. That's been the past precedent.
And in this day, it's forced.
And I think the issue, the town attorney's bringing up is for this council to take action, majority vote is required.
If we want to do that, right?
Article of order, you got
I just want to say that I do understand what one is trying to bring by me to say. It could sway things based on just this vote, but I do think that we do have to go by the majority. If the council is to rule on something, we have to rule by the majority, and I think that's what attorney is saying. Even though it could come out different from the person who already has a lead, because of the way we're voting, with the whole council is voting on. And then one person, that person would then have to get a majority, or what would that person have to do? On this vote?
On this vote, I would say majority.
Majority.
So it still would have to be a majority. Let's still be full.
Is there further discussion?
Can we see that in writing where it says Robert Williams? Because I looked it up and I saw where it could be the person with the most votes. Can you cite that for me? And I feel a lot better. Because I feel kind of, there's still a lot of discussion about it.
So the ordinance, section 2-31, rules of procedure says, except where otherwise provided by this code, law, or ordinance, the procedure of the town council shall be governed by Robert's rules of order. That's town ordinance. Like on Robert's rules of ordinance. But it's treated like the main motion under Robert's rules. It's got to carry by majority.
Bring up an alternative. As we discussed in the meeting in the past, we can conduct business without a full board. We mentioned that a couple months ago. We can wait until November, keep the seat vacant, and people will decide to choose who they want their representative to be, so we don't screw this up. I don't think anybody feels confident in this process. I don't think anybody out there probably does. I don't think any of us do. You can leave the vote in the hands of the people who ultimately have decided why all the other, who fills all these other seats. Might not be popular or not. I hate to not take action. I mentioned before, I don't like taking substantial action without having a full board. That would be the only alternative I think is fair to everybody.
So the general statute requires, this is 168-63, a vacancy that occurs in an elective office in the city shall be filled by appointment of the city council. If the term of the office expires immediately following the next regular city election, or if the next regular city election will be held within 90 days after the vacancy occurs, the person appointed to fill the vacancy shall serve the remainder of the unexpired term. There's a 90-day, if it had been closer than 90 days to the election, would that be appropriate? And I'm not sure the council can decide to do that. That's what the statute is.
So he said it's outside the 90, more than 90 days.
It's outside the
We require, yeah, I do agree with that.
For the record, I'll read Rule 13, voting by written ballot. The board may choose by majority vote to use written ballots in voting on a motion. Such ballots shall be signed, and the minutes of the board shall show the vote of each member voting. The ballot shall be available for public inspection in the office of the board's clerk or secretary immediately following the meeting at which the vote took place and until the minutes of that meeting were approved, at which time the ballots may be destroyed. So there's a motion and a second on the table to have a runoff between Mr. Ridgway and Mr. Pitt. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor of a runoff, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One no vote? Okay. Motion carries. We will have a runoff. All right, at this time, it would be appropriate for each council member to write their vote between Lewis Ridgway and Mr. Mears Pitt to be collected by the town clerk. Thank you for clarity, Mr.
Councilman Brown, Lewis Ridgway. Councilman Woodard, Mears Pitt. Councilman Taylor, Mears Pitt. Councilman Burnett, Mears Pitt. Councilman Anderson, Lewis Ridgway. Councilmember Jordan, no vote. Councilmember Bynum, no vote. So that is 3 votes for Mears Pitt and 2 votes for Lewis Ridgway.
Mr. Hampton, no vote is considered an affirmative vote, but
Can't do it. Determine which one is affirmative for.
Is ranked choice an option?
What was that?
Ranked choice?
You could make that motion. But we need to get a number.
Ranked choice means everyone ranks in order who they would like to see fill the seat. And then the first, second, and third places are given a point value.
Thinks this would work out for those.
That's a big issue, so how did the vote turn out?
2 votes for Mr. Ridgway, 3 votes for Mr. Pitt, and 2 no votes.
Mr. Pitt won.
It's not a majority.
Gotta have 4 votes.
Mr. Hampton,
He's trying to research whether you can actually stay on this board.
your statute says you need to be expansion.
Right, that's fine.
Yes, there's a direct.
168 75, the member shall be excused from considering all matters involving consideration of the individual's own financial interests or official conduct or matters in which the member is prohibited from voting.
This specific to this situation that we're talking about. Yes, and no. All right, what's the next step? You go again?
Mr. Hampton, would it be appropriate for us to have an additional runoff vote?
Certainly, you try that.
All right, at this time, it would be appropriate for council to vote between Mr. Pitt and Mr. Ridgway. As stated, it's against state statute to not take a vote.
They make you vote for them, they're not. And I'm not gonna let them.
State statute says that council must take a vote unless you have a financial interest. One of you have to take a vote.
But do we have to make a motion to have a second vote? Or the earlier vote, we kind of had a plan. But the council, what shall we do? Somebody can make that motion. I don't know.
anybody have a motion that they would like to make to get us out of this rut?
Yes, I'll make a motion to postpone this to the next.
And develop a ranked choice apparatus.
How would that work?
Ranked choice means you write down your first choice, your second choice, and your third choice. Only values assigned and other information. That's obviously not that math off the top of my head. That's how.
Alaska.
I'm saying,
I'd like to take my name application for the temporary position.
Thank you, Mr. Ridgway. So Mr. Ridgway is withdrawing. Councilman Brown has a motion on the table that has not been seconded. Could we go on your motion?
What the motion was to actually table this to the next meeting.
Are we able to do that? 90 days.
well, we got two people now, we don't see really postpone. Yeah, what I'm saying, Mr. Mayor, didn't get a second, so we can, yes, we can move on.
Is there a second for Councilman Brown's motion? Having no second, Councilman Brown's motion dies. Now that we have two candidates for the Ward 5 seat, it would be appropriate for a council member to make a motion as to how to proceed.
Well, that's, I think we put it simple now, we just vote again, but I would like to take this time to as you say, have a discussion of this, the reason why I'm in the situation, I would like to see us, have a younger candidate for that position. We think, particularly, my generation, we have a hard time making room for young people, and that's one reason why. And I think this young man is up to the task, and it'll be good for us to try to bring somebody young on board council.
You're all younger than me, so I'll be doing that.
Further discussion? Councilman Brown?
Yes, only comment I would like to make to all the candidates prior to this. I've read your application. All the candidates were impressive. I think they all had good points. I feel like it's my job to go through the application regardless of age or anything else and read the application and try to determine which candidates, to me, have maybe a little bit more things in their application that I personally like seeing. That's when I make my decision. Not your age or anything else. It's just what you put down in this application. That's what I have to do about. And I would like to take this opportunity to also thank Mr. Ridgway for his years of service in our military and the service to our country. Thank you for that time for spending in this.
Further discussion?
I would like to comment that I've said to all three candidates as well. They're all three very good candidates. Anyone would do a great job. And as I said, regardless of the results tonight, I encourage all three of them to run for the seat in November and let the people of the board make that decision. Thank you.
Councilman Taylor, is there further discussion? Councilman Woodward?
Yes, I want to thank Mr. Ridgway, and I like all the candidates, but Jimmy is my choice, and I would like a person with the mindset that will get this, what we're trying to do now is move the town forward, and with growth, and wouldn't
discussion? Hearing none, we will move on to a vote. Candidates are Mr. Jones and Mr. Pitt.
Councilman Taylor, Mayor Smith. Councilman Woodard, Ryan Jones. Councilman Burnett, Mayor Smith. Councilwoman Brown, Mayor Smith. Councilman Anderson, Mayor Smith. Councilmember Jordan, Ryan Jones. And Councilmember Bynum, Ryan Jones. So that is 4 for Mayor Smith and 3 for Ryan Jones.
Vote passes. Gentlemen, thank you all for putting your name in the hat to represent our town. I know you do it very well.
I'm
No,
getting ready to go.
Yes, ma'am.
But I sit here through all of this, and this is
Ma'am.
crazy to me. That's okay, if I'm out of order, you are too, the way y'all voted. That's ridiculous.
Mr. Pitt? Yes.
See him in November.
That would be a really good time for you to get a photo of them. Like just go kind of like up to where the second row is. Sounds good. Good luck with the photo.
We ain't gonna know what 5 long damn.
All right, that brings us to matters scheduled for public hearing. The 2025-2026 fiscal year budget, a public hearing will be held on the proposed 2025-2026 fiscal year budget. On the closure of the public hearing, it will be appropriate for council to take action concerning the budget ordinance. I hereby declare this public hearing open. If anybody would like to speak in favor of the budget, now is the time to do so. Hearing none, if there's there's anyone that would like to speak against the proposed budget, now is the time to do so. I declare this public hearing closed. At this time, it would be appropriate for council to take action.
Make a motion that we approve the budget.
Councilman Woodard has made a motion to approve the budget. Councilman Brown has seconded that motion. Is there further discussion?
Yes.
Councilman Burnett?
How many cuts do we do in this budget?
Cuts me.
Cut on expenditures? Any of them? I mean, after we approve it, we have a public hearing.
After council approves it, we make any
There
addition.
was none. Didn't we make one?
We reduced there was a recommendation to reduce the suggestion from 4% cost of 3.5%.
And that's the only one we did. How much money did we save on that?
We really didn't change the numbers that much at all. Overall, it was only about $60,000 spread across all the different accounts. So we
Where
didn't
did
really
that
change
go?
the numbers that much.
We're at $60,000.
It just remains in the
Where?
budget. It remains in the budget.
In the budget. So it was
It's not enough to change the numbers.
Right. So I want to do it.
Well, it's across all the funds.
Okay. So we, around $60,000 that we not given to the employee. And we're not doing any increase on insurance premium.
No, sir, we got a flag.
So we technically, by cutting that off to the employees, we haven't really saved anything.
By the end of the year, we'll probably recognize some savings from it, but just initially, it wasn't enough to make substantial changes.
My thing is,
Can I just give you qualitative rather than quantitative?
Councilman Woodard.
His question was how much did he save? That's a quantitative question. But you gave a qualitative answer. How much money did you save?
As I said, there's no changes in the numbers of the budget that's presented to you now from the 3.5.
What are you trying to say? I'm trying to understand.
what I'm getting at is, these are the same employees that we sit here after every council meeting saying, "I great job you're doing, appreciate what you're doing." And now we want to take 5% away from them.
I'm going to figure out that answer.
I'm just saying, we've got opportunity to give them a 4%, and that is their 4%. They don't have to spend it on anything, on insurance, when we generally, in years past, we give them a cost of living raise. And then we say, well, insurance went up 2%, so really you don't get that money. And here's an opportunity to do that. What these individuals we say, great job, thank you for your service, you did a super job. But now we're saying, no, we're not going to give you what was already in the funds to give. That's my point. And I'm done.
Councilman Burnett. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, there's a motion and a second on the table to pass the budget as presented. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed?
No.
One opposed? Councilman Burnett? Motion carries. Town manager's recommendations. Okay, first I ask council to approve the consent items on the agenda. Councilwoman Bynum has made a motion to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Jordan has seconded Councilwoman Bynum's motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
All right, thank you, Mr. Mayor. Memo 2532 is related to the report of unpaid taxes that are liens on real property and tax lien advertisement. North Carolina General Statute 105-369 requires that the tax collector report to the council the amount of unpaid taxes for the current fiscal year that are liens on real property. The total amount of unpaid taxes for 24 that are liens on real property is $159,055.12. The list of these unpaid taxes is on file in the tax collector's office. Same statute also requires the governing body to order the tax collector to advertise these tax liens. Advertisement must be made at least one time between March 1st and June 30. Effective July 1, 2006, after the governing body orders the tax collector to advertise the tax liens, the collector must send a notice to the owner of record as of the length of date, January 5th. The notice must be sent at least 30 days before the date of the advertisement to be published. It's recommended that Council 1, approve the report of the tax collector of the 2024 unpaid taxes that are liens on real property, and 2, order the tax collector to advertise those 2024 taxes that are liens on real property one time as soon as all statutory requirements are met.
For a motion, yes, make a motion to approve the recommendation.
Councilman Taylor's made a motion. Do we hear a second?
Second.
Councilwoman Jordan, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Okay, memo 2533 is Tarboro Redevelopment Commission annual report. We have the Executive Director, Ray Green, is here with us tonight to update council on redevelopment commission activities of the past year. Green, if you're not coming up.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. Ray Green with the Redevelopment Commission of the Town of Tarboro. We have 193 public unit houses that are under our annual contribution contract with HUD. Even though the 193 units are scattered throughout Tarboro, HUD considers us as one project or one AMP as defined by HUD. As of 12/31, we had 251 applications on our waiting list. We had another 34 vacancies throughout the year of 2024. 10 were move-outs, a lease violation, 1 activities of non-payment, fraud, and subletting, and 3 tenants passed away. During the year, we've had 1,289 work orders that were completed on an average of less than 2 days per work order. This does not include our preventive maintenance work orders, clinical work orders such as grass cutting, changing of filters, or changing the batteries in the alarm smoke detectors. The Redevelopment Commission has had a designation of a high performer under the HUD Public Housing Assessment Program and continues to do that as we stand here. Our pilot program to the town, we paid $53,946 in a pilot payment to the town. That's in lieu of taxes, which means that we actually are paying taxes because our taxes are higher than our pilot, which means that we're doing quite well as a housing. And just to share with you, somehow in the face of cuts or over-regulations, audits, consent changes, HUD changes, HUD ending deadlines, we've made it through another of the year. And we have also done that with the excellence of having to make no cuts in our employment, no layoffs or any changes. We are a housing authority in not just good standing, but great standing. That's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Green. Councilman Baker?
For the 251 applications that I guess that applied for housing, how many of those received the house? Did all the applicants qualify or get housing?
At the time of the, we still have a waiting list that's actively running.
Is this the waiting list?
Yes, sir.
251 is the waiting list.
At that time. Yes.
No, so I just need
Councilman
I
Wood?
have a question about, so what's your budget and how is your money invested in your budget?
How was our money invested?
Yeah. What is your budget?
In our budget. I didn't bring the budget information, but let me share this with you. We received a capital fund grant from HUD in 2024 in the amount of $524,720. These funds were used to replace all 193 roofs. We've been renovating every year for the last 10 years or so to bring our housing up to code to make sure that we are providing a good product to the citizens of Tarboro. And so I'm proud of that. As far as our investments, we invest in CDs. HUD does not allow us to make money. We're a nonprofit. And so, but we are an awesome organization and we do extremely well. We have almost $2 million in reserve, which would allow us to do about 24 months. However, HUD recommends that we only carry 6 months. And so we're doing extremely well in that field. However, we are looking to do some other things this year, which we are replacing all of our heat and air units this year. And that's going to be quite expensive. We need to also replace a couple of vehicles. And so we'll take care of that as well.
Oh, it does allow you to make interest on property, that's just typical anyway. They don't allow you to invest in the stock market, that type of thing. That's what they certainly recommend CDs.
Yeah, we're doing CDs. We do CDs.
Well, I'm glad to hear that.
Yeah. Yes, sir.
All right, thank you.
Councilman Ted?
Thank you, Mr. Green, for being here tonight and giving us your report. Over the last few months, we've had a couple of public hearings in which the council had asked for and required for these apartment complexes that are coming in the future have a resident manager or someone on site to manage as such. I guess like having people follow the rules or maintain their apartments or whatever to certain standards. How do you do that? I know you said there were some forced moves. How do y'all manage that somebody is obviously checking or observing to make sure that people are meeting certain standards to live in these apartments? And I'm just wondering how y'all do that.
Well, how we do it is whenever there's a work order, our maintenance staff goes into the unit. They do a verbal look around of the unit to see and make sure that there are no big holes in the unit, just not being destroyed and anything of that nature. If they see anything, they report back to the office. We do an annual inspection every year where we physically go out to each unit and we walk through from top to bottom. And we check it that way. Also, once a year, we bring our tenants back into the unit. We do what we call a recertification, and we go through their entire portfolio to make sure that everything is up to date and across the board, financially, those that are living in the house, and all of that. So that's how we maintain.
Councilman Brown?
How do you address that 2 million people on applications?
I'm sorry, say that
How
again.
you want, how does HUD or the Tarboro Redevelopment Commission handle homes for this 251 applicants?
How do we address it? Well, they're on a waiting list, and it's based upon bedroom size. And so the system creates from what we call a 0 bedroom, kind of like a studio apartment, and we go all the way up to 5 bedrooms. And so based upon what you qualify for, you're placed on that waiting list in that category. And when a unit becomes available, we send it out, and then we bring you in to see if you're still interested. Sometimes people have already found housing, sometimes they've moved on, sometimes they're not in a position to purchase a house at that time. And so the list kind of moves forward.
So, in other words, there's no plans to add additional parks for these applicants later on?
Well, you can never say never. Right now, we're at our fair call for that, which is 193.
Yeah, what kind of level is that?
Fair call.
What does that mean?
HUD limits how many units you can have. And so we're at our limit.
What would typically be the waiting period?
That's kind of, Tina's asking that question all the time. It's really kind of hard to say because we don't know when people are going to move. What I share with tenants, applicants is, get the application in because without the application, nothing can happen. But if there's an application on file when something becomes available, then you're in line for it.
Well, then how would you go about increasing that number from 193, increasing it higher than that? How do you qualify to increase that number?
Well, HUD sets those numbers, and so at this point, as far as public housing, we wouldn't qualify for anymore because we're at our max.
Yeah, but you have to go through, so would you have to apply?
HUD funds us solely.
Yeah, I got that, but I'm trying to figure out how does HUD set those limits when we have a need for additional?
That's going to come through DC. Yes, sir.
And I think I'm just trying to follow what he's saying. Cannot the board request more units to meet the need if the waiting list is that high? I think that's what Councilman Brown was saying. Whether you read it denied or not, I mean, is there a process that can be taken?
I'm sure there is. I mean, I wouldn't think that it would not be a process.
And can that be assessed? I think it's another point.
Certainly.
Can it be assessed as whether they can be done or not? Whether there's apparently there's a need, I guess, if you got to wait until that big.
And Reverend Green, the town has conducted a housing assessment. They may provide some data that would help.
Okay.
No, thank you, sir.
I would just like us to look into how we have to levels to colleges, schools, stuff, to have that number lifted up so we can better meet the needs that we are facing.
Yes, sir.
Are there any further questions for Reverend Green?
No, just thank you for coming today.
Thank you for coming today.
Thank you. Thank you, sir.
Memo 2534 is related to a special event, the Tide Farm Lewis community event. Passing out some additional information we received about today to council. Rhonda Whitaker is requesting co-sponsorship of the town of Tarboro for a 2-day event to be held on July 11th and 12th at the Indian Lake Sports Complex by Tyquan Lewis, former Tarboro Viking and current NFL football player. These will feature various activities over the 2 days for the community to participate in. Co-sponsorship is being requested to utilize town equipment such as stage and necessary staff assistance. You have more details about the request in front of you now. We've also requesting use of, in addition to the stage, tent. It is recommended council co-sponsoring the two-day event by Tarboro to be held at Indian Lake Sports Complex July 11th.
I'm looking at it,
So, Councilwoman Biden made the motion and Councilwoman Jordan seconded the motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries. Okay, memo 2535 is an appeal of the nuisance ordinance, specifically related to 513 Bar Second Drive. On May 5th, the town's code enforcement officer inspected the property on noticing a vehicle in violation of the town's code of ordinances. Chapter 10, nuisance section, specifically the vehicle was observed non-compliance. It was determined to be a junk motor vehicle as outlined in section D, 25D, which in this case does not display a current license. As outlined within the ordinance, as the proper procedure violation letter was sent to the property owner within the standard letter, includes the method of appeal, and the code enforcement officer received an appeal letter from the property owner, Mr. Eric Land, received an appeal stage enforcement of the ordinance and removed the vehicle from the property until the council makes a determination. In the event of appeal, town council may hear from all interested parties and review the findings of the authorized official. Following the gathering of such information, council may either reverse the findings of the authorizing enforcement officer, may pursuant to the chapter, or the council shall determine that the findings of the authorized official made pursuant to the chapter are correct. The council shall adopt an ordinance specifically declaring the condition existing on the property to be a danger and hazard to the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the town and public nuisance, and directing the authorizing official to cause those conditions to be abated and placed against the property for any cost being incurred by the town by removal as stated in the ordinance. You have attached the documentation related to this event, as well as the ordinance. They could be adopted, council choose to do so. Town attorney, will you lead us through this process, please?
I'll do my best.
When do I get to sit my part?
This is similar to the special use process we went through a couple months ago. It's an evidentiary hearing. So the council shall hear and decide all appeals from and review any order, requirement, decision, or determination made by the authorizing official for the code of ordinances. In this case, it's the code enforcement officer for the town. The purpose of this hearing is to gather facts regarding the subject request prior to the town council making a decision regarding the request. The evidentiary hearing is not a public hearing to solicit citizen opinions. The hearing is open to the public. All persons interested in the disposition of the case will be given an opportunity to present evidence and arguments based on fact and ask questions of persons who testify. The council may place reasonable and equitable limitations on the presentation of evidence and arguments and the cross-examination of witnesses so that the matter at issue may be heard and decided without undue delay. If there has been any ex parte communication or if there's anyone who has a conflict of interest in this case, they should disclose that at this time. Anyone with a conflict or ex parte communication? Seeing none, you will only consider testimony that is competent, material, and substantial in the case. As a reminder, hearsay evidence is not admissible unless it falls within one of the exceptions. I'll guide you on that. If testimony or written evidence is received that you believe contains hearsay, you may ask for an interpretation and whether or not an exception is available. Throughout the hearing, the appellant in this case has the burden of persuasion and proof. The appellant's burden on appeal is to establish that the decision of the officer was not based on material, competent, and substantial evidence. The appellant is appealing the decision of a decision by the code enforcement officer. This is an appeal from the officer's decision. This is not a hearing to vary or change the ordinance, but to apply what has been issued to the particular facts. It requires a three-step process. First, interpret the meaning of the ordinance which is in question. Second, apply that ordinance to the particular facts presented in the case. And third, sustain, reverse, or modify the decision of the administrative or zoning officer. Order of the hearing will be as follows. The officer who made the decision will present the background of the case, including those facts that have previously been decided and are not in dispute. The officer's presentation can include his position. You may ask questions of the officer concerning the presentation or ask me for any interpretation of the law. Then the appellant will present their case. The appellant will call any witnesses and produce any documents for your consideration. When a witness is through testifying, the officer may ask questions. After the officer, the counsel may ask questions of the witness concerning the witness's testimony, including explanation and clarification. After the appellant finishes his case, the officer may present any additional matters of rebuttal for you to consider, including any additional witnesses. If witnesses are presented, examination and cross-examination will occur in the same manner as before. At the conclusion of the appellant's case, the counsel may ask if there is any final rebuttal or testimony evidence. Rebuttal is not rehashing what was originally said, but specifically addressing viewpoints brought out by either side. The parties may, if they wish, make a concluding statement. This is not testimony, but a summary of why the position is the correct position or why the other position is incorrect. Tonight, based upon the evidence presented and record before the council should make its decision to either reverse the findings of the officer or determine the findings of the officer to be correct and adopt an ordinance declaring it a nuisance to cause the conditions to be abated and a lien placed against the real property for any cost to the town. The mayor will call for such a motion to reverse or affirm the decision of the officer at the end of the hearing. The second is required for any motion, and the council may discuss before making the final decision. Mr. Mayor, I'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, so when all discussion is completed, the mayor will then call for a vote on a motion on the floor to either reverse or modify the officer's decision or to affirm the officer. I declare this public hearing open. Before us this evening is the following appeal, of which proper notice has been made. Application number 25-01, appeal of the code enforcement officer's decision and interpretation of the ordinance. The council has received an appeal to the code of ordinance from Mr. Eric Bland, property owner at 513 Forest Acres Drive. Following a field investigation regarding a parked vehicle violation and determining that the property was not in compliance with the town of Tarboro's code of ordinances, Chapter 10, nuisance section. Specifically, the vehicle not in compliance was determined to be a quote-unquote junk motor vehicle as outlined in section 10-25D, stating it does not display a current license plate. The state Supreme Court has required that council base its decisions only on testimony given under oath. Will everyone who may testify and speak at the hearing please come forward and be sworn. Please keep in mind this evening that a person who deliberately gives false testimony under oath in the hearing is subject to criminal charges with the Madam Clerk.
Do solemnly swear that the testimony you shall give to the Tribunal and council shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God.
Mr. Bland, the officer will go first. Will the officer please present the background of the case, including those facts that have been previously decided and are not in dispute?
Good evening. Before you, and included into our packets with a copy of all of the evidence before you for the Code Enforcement Office on behalf of Town of Tarboro, the Planning and Inspections Office. The nuisance ordinance as adopted by Town Council that was in effect at the time of 2024, and that was the latest version that was adopted where it applies now and currently. This is specifically related to a junk motor vehicle. There was a letter sent May 5th to Mr. Bland at 513 Forest Acres Drive for an expired tag on a white Ford Expedition, stating that the code enforcement officer had performed an inspection and a junk motor vehicle was located at that property. It gave the definition of that in 10 days to come into compliance. An appeal was received for that, and it's before you at this time. We also have a copy of the nuisance ordinance in your packet and a photograph of the vehicle in question.
The specific violation was,
An expired tag, not having a current tag on the vehicle, which is a violation of the ordinance.
Councilman Brown? So, with the expired tags, does that mean the insurance also?
That's not something the town can, that's not part of that, yes, sir. Just the tag itself, yes, sir.
So to obtain a tag, it's not on their vehicle, it would have to get inspected?
Presumably, it depends from case to case, that's not part of our inspection. I mean, that could be something, but it depends from case to case, and the town doesn't get into the reason why it's expired, simply the expiration.
How many of these citations have been
This year, how many junk carts does the town give out since January?
for no register, for out-of-date plates?
Approximately, Christian,
it's about 65.
60 to 65.
Tags again?
On average, it depends. In this case specifically, I don't know. Because that's not part of the ordinance, that's not what we regulate.
Councilman Woodard?
Yeah, I know in order to get tags, you got your taxes and have an inspection. And I believe you got to have insurance as well. That's usually on your registration card. So it's more than just a cosmetic thing. It means some things behind it that you take care of.
Commonly, yes, not in every case, but yes, sir.
There are some other cases, that
Simply if someone doesn't chooses not to.
No, I'm not saying the reason why. I'm saying in order to get tags.
Oh, right, yes, sir, all of those have to be.
Right.
Yes, sir, yes, sir.
Anything further? Further questions from Ms. Fair? Thank you, Ms. Fair. Would the appellant please present their appeal? Mr. White?
All right, guys, my name is Eric. I live at 513 Forest Acre Drive. First, there's a no trespassing sign, and I got left with a notice from an officer with no name on it. At that point, the piece of paper, which I do have that I can share, states that it is a junk motor vehicle that's checked with expired tag. But here we're talking about a nuisance ordinance. So if it was a nuisance ordinance then, why wouldn't that have been checked? So now it's kind of switching as we come up here to talk in front of you guys. And I hear quote unquote junk. Abandoned vehicle, first off, is then left upon a street or highway in violation of law or ordinance prohibited parking. It's left on property owned or operated by the city for longer than 24 hours, or left on private property without the consent of the owner or occupant, or is left on a public street or highway no longer than 7 days, determined by law enforcement to be a hazard to motor in public. This is what an abandoned vehicle is, and this is not an abandoned vehicle. This is my vehicle on my private property that has consent from its owner, me. Quote unquote junk vehicle. A junk motor vehicle is partially mantled and wrecked. This is North Carolina Statute 160A303B 2, and it states what a junk motor vehicle is. It's partially dismantled, it's wrecked, it's not self-propelled, it doesn't move in a manner in which it was originally intended to. It's more than 5 years old, worth less than $100, or is more than 5 years old and worth less than $500. This vehicle is not dismantled, it's not wrecked, it's not in parts. It moves on its own as intended to use. It is worth more than $500. This vehicle is worth $2,500 to $3,000 if I was to sell it here today. Once this was going around that these would be the things, then the nuisance came out, what a nuisance was, and nuisance is also defined, and nuisance is defined as a breeding ground or a harbor of mosquitoes or other insects, rats, or other pests. It's a point of heavy growth of weeds or noxious vegetation over 12 inches in height. It's a point of collection of pools of pond water or water, or it's a concentration of gasoline, oils, or other things that are explosive or flammable. And is it harmful? Does it have any kind of sharp edges? Is there any kind of glass broken on it? And again, this vehicle has none of those. It's not a nuisance. It doesn't have grass that's 12 inches tall around it. It is not broken up. It does not have metal that's sharp. It is not a hazard to the health. It is a working vehicle. It's a farm use vehicle. I don't see why I have to pay, put tags, insurance, and all of that just to be able to get an expired tag to use this vehicle on the farm, just so I can have it sitting in my yard. So I went over the abandoned vehicle, what a junk motor vehicle, and what your nuisance ordinance is, and I did not believe this vehicle falls under any one of those, and I have pictures today to show what that vehicle looks from the roadside, and I also have the signs that were left on the private property, no trespassing, with the name on, with no name on it. And then that'll be, I'm done for today.
Questions, Mr. Bowman?
I have one, just for clarification, council, did you read the entire statute? Did you read North Carolina statutes?
I mean, I read it, yes, sir. I mean, I didn't read the whole thing, so it would be pages. I read highlights of.
168-303, Part B2 defines a junk motor vehicle as an abandoned motor vehicle that also, 1, is partially dismantled or wrecked, or 2, cannot be self-propelled or moved in the manner in which it was originally intended to move, or 3, is more than 5 years old or less than $100, more than 5 years old or less than $500 provided by the municipality. 3A is repealed. Number 4, does not display a current license plate. You didn't read that section, I would make sure council will.
And it's got a license plate on it. It just has a expired tag.
What year was this?
Year it was expired last year, I believe.
December 2024.
December 2024.
Yes, sir.
Did we do registration or getting this sticker for it?
I mean, so far as the farm use, you know, I carry it to the farm and use it around the farm, whatever I need to do to go from place to place to be able to use it. Again, like I said, the vehicle works.
Councilman Brown?
Understand you say it's for use, but at the same time, how you gonna get it to the farm?
Trailer? Yes, sir.
Councilman Taylor? I'm sorry.
Well, based on our ordinance, it has to have the current tag. And if not, then it meets the definition of what they're actually saying. So, my thing is, you either get a current tag or remove it, put it out on the farm. Be able to be in the spot.
Anything further, Councilman Brown? Councilman Taylor?
Did you list as far as personal property?
Say again, sir?
Did you list your taxes in January or listed as personal property in January for Edgecombe County?
You have to ask my tax guy.
You should know if you listed it as personal property. Because if you don't have a tag on it, you have to list it as personal property in the county. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilman Taylor. So to summarize the appeal, Mr. Blaine, you say that there is a no trespassing sign that you feel was broken because of a tag that was put on your vehicle.
Right.
You don't believe your vehicle to be a junk vehicle because it's a farm vehicle. The vehicle was on private property and quoted the state statute 160A that Mr. Hinton further clarified. You provided various definitions of nuisance and said that your vehicle is not considered a nuisance by the definitions that you were given. And the
tag expired on December 24th. Did I miss anything?
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. We'll go to Councilman Warner.
Yeah, I just wanna say, the tag that has expired is not a tag. It's an ornament, it's not a tag. It gotta be current in order to be considered a tag. I just want to put up, since you say you had a tag, it doesn't make it legitimate unless it's current.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Thank you, Councilman Woodard. Would the town care to rebut any of Mr. Bland's findings?
Provide some clarification. The town does have authority to step within the curtilage of the property, which is between the front door and the street. For clarification on that, as an officer of the town of Tarboro and sworn as such. It is a part of the nuisance ordinance, air pollution, overgrown vegetation, things that have a detrimental aesthetic or other type of detrimental nature to them are part of the nuisance ordinance. Under that, nuisance vehicles, junk vehicles are all listed as definitions, and those definitions were included in the letter that was sent. Additionally, both the notification that is left on the vehicles and the letter that is mailed immediately afterwards have a contact information for the town of Tarboro Code Enforcement Office. The reason and background, and we've discussed this sometime prior, that something is left at the vehicle is so that for people quite often who are either tenants or people that are owners that don't check their mail on a regular basis, or if the postal service is sometimes a little behind, as it sometimes can be, that provides them a visual indication that, hey, this is something I might need to look at and contact us. That gives them a little bit of heads up before they're waiting for something in the mail they may or may not see. So that's a benefit to them. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Williams. Does the appellant have the right to rebut?
Yes.
Mr. Williams, would you like to rebut anything that Mr. Brown or planning director tell?
Yes, you just said, for an eyesore, that's relative speaking on what you think an eyesore is, If you think that, a vehicle that is intact, that, is an eyesore, or you think that an eyesore is something where things are mangled in the car, I think that's relative. And as far as that, I thought that, an officer can come on my property and if they're in hot pursuit, if there's anyone in danger or if there's any evidence or anything being destroyed, and I didn't see any of that happening, and an officer, which isn't he's an officer, it's an administrative officer, had the right to go up there and be on the property when they could have just mailed it, and that's it.
Questions? Thank you, Mr. Bowman. Mr. Hinton, could you walk us through how to proceed with the findings, three-part finding? Would the town or Mr. Bland like to make a closing argument? Not from the town, Mr. Bland? Can you walk us through the three-step process of findings?
Right, so, Mr. Mayor and council members, as I read before, there's basically three questions we have to answer, and you can take each of them in order with discussion if you'd like. The first question is, does the situation meet the definition of the ordinance of junk motor vehicles as previously adopted for the town? Second, was the proper procedure followed by administrative staff in enforcing the code of ordinances? And third, do you affirm or reverse the decision of the officer? Do you find the situation conducive to violation?
Thank you. Would this be best done in a written ballot or? Like to do a voice vote? All right, so we will read down the
does this situation meet the definition in the ordinance of a quote-unquote junk motor vehicle? And correct me if I'm wrong, a junk motor vehicle includes a vehicle without tags, or expired tags. If you would like to vote yes, does this situation meet the definition in the ordinance of a junk motor vehicle, do so by saying aye.
Aye.
If you'd like to vote no, say nay. Vote 8-0. Brett says yes. All right. On to finding B, was the proper procedure followed as outlined in the Code of Ordinances? To vote yes, say aye.
Aye.
Any no's, say nay. It's an 8-0 vote. Does the council find the situation to be a nuisance? To vote yes, say aye.
Aye.
To vote no, say nay. It's unanimous as well, 8-0. All right, so the vote, I will clarify for finding A, it was voted 8-0 that the situation met the definition of the ordinance calling Mr. Bland's vehicle a junk motor vehicle by the ordinance. That passed 8-0. Was the proper procedure followed as outlined in the Code of Ordinances? That was also found to be a yes by a vote of 8-0. And did the council find the situation to be a nuisance? That was a yes by a vote of 8-0. So, seeing that this appeal is denied, a motion must be made to adopt the attached ordinance specifically declaring the condition existing on the property to be a danger and hazard to the health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the inhabitants of the town, and a public nuisance and directing and authorizing officials to cause the conditions to be abated and a lien to be placed against the property for any cost the town incurred by removal as stated here in the ordinance. Councilman Woodard made a motion to approve. Councilman Taylor seconded that motion. Is there further discussions? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Memo 25-36 is related to the lease and maintenance of some town property buyout lots. Mitch Teshio Pittman had requested to lease town-owned lots purchased through the hazard mitigation buyout program for the purposes of planting gardens as a part of the community project. The Pittmans have agreed to only utilize the lots as authorized by the requirements of the hazard mitigation grant program and will maintain the lots at no cost or liability to the town. It's recommended the council adopt the attached lease and maintenance agreement for the lots as identified and attached.
Second. Councilwoman Biden made the motion. Jordan, please forgive me. Councilwoman Jordan made the motion. Councilman Taylor seconded that motion. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, the motion carries.
Memo 2537 is related to awarding of a contract for the riverfront access program. Town of Tarboro received funds from the North Carolina Department of Commerce under the Rural Transformation Grant Program to provide better access from Main Street to Riverfront Park and stabilize the banks of the Tar River to protect the park from improved utilization. On May 1st, 2025, the town held a bid opening for the project, and this opening on one proposal was received. Per the town and state's procurement requirements, the project was rebid. On May 22nd, 2025, the second bid opening was held. The town received again one proposal from Anderson and Company Incorporated for $700,955. The bid is within budget and meets the needs of the town for completing the project according to the grant requirements. It's recommended the council award the contract for the Tarboro Riverfront Access Project to Anderson and Company Incorporated at the bid price of $700,955 and authorize staff to execute all necessary documents related to the same.
Councilman Brown. motion, is there a second?
Second.
Councilman Burnett is second to Councilman Brown's motion, is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
Memo 2538 is relating to awarding a contract to Fire Connections for 95-foot one rear mount platform fire apparatus. Per council discussion at the 2025 Town Council Planning Retreat, a proposal has been obtained to replace the town's 2000 E1 95-foot rear mount platform fire apparatus. Attached is the proposal from Fire Connections through the Sourcewell National Cooperative Procurement Service, along with specifications for the proposed apparatus. It is recommended the council award the contract to Fire Connections Incorporated at the purchase price of $1,898,821. It is hard to say, so they don't. And authorize staff to execute all documents related to the purchase. Final financing for the purchase is not required until delivery of the apparatus, which will take approximately 4 months.
Second.
Councilman Brown has made the motion to approve, seconded by Councilman Taylor. Is there further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Ayes have it, motion carries.
All right, memo 2539 is related to an appointment to the Historic District Commission. After careful consideration, Brenda Ridgway has made a decision to resign from her position as a member of the Historic District Commission, creating a vacancy on the commission. Scott Ryan, Dana Alexander, and Farrah Martin have all expressed interest in serving on this board. Their applications are attached. It's recommended the council appoint an individual to fill the vacancy in the Historic District Commission.
So at this time, would it be appropriate for a member of council to approve one of the three, or should
I mean, typically, council that's my ballot.
I don't know if we can do another vote. All right, you take this one. So at this time, it would be appropriate for council to take a paper ballot out and make sure to mark your ward seat and put your selection up there to be collected by the town clerk. Do that aloud.
Councilman Brown, Farrah Martin. Councilman Woodard, Farrah Martin. Councilman Anderson, Dana Alexander. Mears Pitt, Farrah Martin. Councilmember Briyana, Dana Alexander. Councilmember Jordan, Farrah Martin. Councilman Burnett, Dana Alexander. And Councilman Taylor, Farrah Martin. So that is 5 for Farrah Martin, 3 for Dana Alexander.
All right. Votes are ready. Mr. Martin has it. All right. Town manager, any other report?
Yes, sir. As council aware, several members of council will be attending the Electric City's annual conference which typically coincides with our August meeting, and it will this year as well. So recommended council move August council meeting as we have in years past. Suggested date may be the 18th, which is the following Monday in August.
Second. Councilman Anderson has made the motion for August 18th to be the rescheduled date. That was seconded by Councilman Woodard. Is there further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor of August 18th being the next meeting date, signify by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion has it. We'll see you on August 18th. Anything further?
No, sir. Thank you.
Town attorney?
Just briefly let council know we are working with the other firm to proceed with the enforcement code ordinance downtown. We are talking to the manager today, so we're taking the next steps on that. Okay, we'll have them.
Thank you, Mr. Young. Anything further? Start down this way this time. Councilman Anderson? Councilwoman Bynum? Councilwoman Jordan?
Yes, Parks and Recs. Just, we need to make a public aware of some of the specifics of the different things that's going on. A little more, Boys and Girls Club, they know, Tarboro, chaperone that.
They didn't know.
They didn't know about the new changes. So like the daycares and the, other organizations will be bringing more children. I'll call you. All right?
Yeah.
I just want to say,
Yeah.
you have to more chaperone like that.
Yeah, we did approve that fee structure adjustment during the retreat.
Yes, sir.
We can clarify that through social media or something that could help. Yeah, we can do that.
Councilwoman Jordan, anything further?
No, sir, thank you.
Councilman Pitt?
I would just like to thank the council here for another meeting. I really appreciate the vote of confidence in everybody, and I mean that from the bottom of my heart. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Councilman Pitt.
No change in none, today.
Said no change in none. Councilman Brown? Councilman Burnett? Councilman Taylor?
Mr. Nichols wouldn't happen not to be here tonight, but over the last month or so, I've had some calls from different residents on several different issues, and I have called him, and he has responded absolutely on the spot, and I just personally want to thank him for all his effort and his people. He always brings somebody with him that they have been quick to respond to a couple of my constituent needs, so I just wanted to thank him for that. That's it. Thank you.
Councilman Taylor, Councilman Wood?
I want to welcome you, council.
Thank you.
Glad to have you. Looking forward to working with you.
Appreciate it.
Then I want to share just some statistics. The average cost of living raise this year was 3.1%. The average merit rate, this is called the state of North Carolina, was 2.4%, which came to 3.5 total, which was the average within the state of North Carolina. We did 3.5 cost of living and a 2% merit rate, which also came to the average of 3.5. We chose to give more, everybody more, by going the cost of living higher. But the average cost of living rate was actually 3.1%. I had shared this with the town manager. I just want people to know that we were well within the average of what was given to employees across the state.
That's it. Anything further? Well, at this time, it would be appropriate for someone to take us into closed session by making a motion for North Carolina General Statute 143-318 adopt 11.84 for economic development.
I motion we do so after a
5 minute break. All right, Councilman Anderson is motion for a 5 minute break. This is seconded by Councilman Wood, and when we return,